Senator Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to thank the witnesses, in particular Ms. Van Meulen. You are a senior executive in our airline, Alaska Airline. That's our state's airline. I know it's headquartered in Seattle, but we consider it our airline. So, and you're a veteran, Black Hawk pilot, which is very impressive. And Alaska, the state, has more veterans per capita than any state in the country. So these are things that should all work together to help us address some of the challenges. So I want to follow up on, first on my colleague's question on veterans and the more we can be doing. You actually came through the pipeline as a pilot yourself, and so is there anything more that you want to add to Senator Klobuchar's question and the discussion you had on getting veterans? And of course, we have another Hilo pilot who's chairing, my friend Senator Duckworth. Blackhawks too, right?
Air assault all the way. What?
All right. I knew she'd do that, which is great. I love it. But it's a match kind of made in heaven, right? Our veterans know how to get up at 4 a.m., be on time, discipline. So what more can we be doing in that area?
Senator Sullivan, thank you for your support of Alaska Airlines. We are an important infrastructure element to the state and are proud to be that for the last 90 years that we've operated there. It sharpens the skills of our pilots and all our team. To that end, we hire a lot of veterans because of the, as you mentioned, skills they innately bring to the task. Two things. One is transitioning from their current work to either becoming a pilot or a certificated technician. Getting the FAA equivalent is clunky. And then secondly, I would say loans, GI loans are not at the level that they need to be to assist in that transition.
So let's dig into that. And maybe for the record, if you could provide, or other witnesses here, it's a great panel, that FAA clunkiness, right? We see that all the time. And, you know, if you're like a motor T military member, and then you gotta, when you get out, you gotta spend, you know, $15,000 to get your CDL, and you're like driving trucks in Iraq, you're pretty qualified, right? But similarly, if there's clunkiness to FAA licensing for our veterans, let's work together on this FAA reauth that we're literally drafting up now to address that, because these are the kind of things that drive people nuts. If you're doing all this stuff in the military and then you got to get out and they pretend like you're starting from scratch on the on some of the licensing and other things, we would want to work with you on that. So can we maybe, everybody here, if you guys have ideas on how to make that less clunky, especially for our pilots and others, I think that would be really helpful. You guys think that's a good idea? I mean, we got a pilot shortage. Yeah. Okay, so let's try and do that. By the way, I want to also express support for Senator Baldwin's bill that she's working on. My office is working with her on. Do you think that, it sounded like from the last exchange, that the idea of providing an opportunity for federally funded education programs to ensure flight and aviation components to have education and student loans for that is important? Would everybody agree on that? Anyone have additional comments? It's a really important issue that I think can help with our shortages.
Senator Sullivan, I would just support that tremendously, because there are career awareness, issues that we're dealing with, but there's also financial issues to get people into the pipeline. And one other comment on your FAA is the Part 65 should be much more widely publicized from the FAA as a transition for those that are on the flight line to an A&P mechanic Part 147 license.
Well, let me ask about that. That's a final question I wanted to have. You know, I appreciated, Ms. Van Meulen, your testimony. You gave a shout out to one of my constituents from Metlakatla, who recently became an aircraft technician with the help from Alaska Airlines Maintenance Technician Development Program, and has now established a new carrier as a line aircraft technician in Anchorage. Can you tell the committee a little bit more about how that program or other programs that enable people to begin? I was actually on an Alaska Airlines flight very recently with one of my former Marines. We had a recon unit in Anchorage that great Marine who started, handling bags, and now is in one of your top technicians, and he's been with Alaska Airlines for 20 years. It was great chatting with him. It was just a couple weeks ago on a flight from Juneau to Anchorage. Those kind of programs that help people advance, I would love to hear more about those, and from any other witness too.
Thank you, Senator, for mentioning. We invest $12,300 to support a technician who wants to, or someone who wants to become a technician who's currently working with and for us. So as they continue to work, in this case, Kyle was working on the ramp. He got his A&P certificate. Incredible young man who was working while getting his education and got support from us in doing so. We're looking forward to expanding this program, and also to the extent that the federal government is there to help in expanding that type of program further, really critical, because the pilot and technician jobs are incredibly well-paying and great careers, especially if you have the opportunity to do it within the geography that you grow up in, as Kyle did.
Great, good. Thank you, Madam Chair.